Greetings, Remnant Church and online confessors. Quick heads up about this particular lesson. We're going to be talking about things that I have learned make some Christians very, very angry, angry enough to destroy a church. So if you find you don't want to hear what I have to say this time around, please skip this lesson for your own mental well-being and for mine. We're going to be talking about anger and hate and their rightful places in the Christian life. If you don't think they belong at all and you are pretty sure you can't be convinced otherwise, then this lesson is not for you, and this lesson will only upset you. So I do invite you to go look at some of the previous lessons and skip this one altogether if you already know you and I are not going to agree on this. If you can be reasoned with, then please hang tight. Even if you can be reasoned with and you think I'm wrong at the end of it, at least you're listening with the right ear. If you are truly looking to engage the material this week and think I need correcting, then please put something in the comments section and I'll try to answer you. But let me also tell you this, you need to put, if you are an atheist or a non-Christian who is discussing these things with me, I'm going to require you from now on to put Jesus as King at the top of your post so that I know that you did more than just read the little intro that I gave and you're going to go on your rant over my one paragraph instead of listening to the entire lesson. So I'm going to need you to listen to the entire lesson if I'm going to converse with you. Otherwise, I go over the same road over and over again. And honestly, it's a waste of my life and my time, because what I found of most atheists nowadays is they've been so brainwashed by the school, they don't know the difference between the hole in the ground and you know what. But I get a ton of comments from Christian haters. I haven't even watched the videos, and I'm just going to delete them from now on if they haven't given me the courtesy of putting the passcode at the top of it and actually listening to what I have to say. If you enjoy and are blessed by any of these lessons, then I beg you, please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us out. We have studied hard to bring you spiritual insight into the ancient writings so that you can bring spiritual insight into your daily spiritual warfare. This week is a short, sweet lesson that finds Augustine not just making a geographical and professional move or change, but also we witness God drawing Augustine ever forward into spiritual enlightenment and spiritual change. Augustine is beginning to show signs of wear and tear in his Manichaean faith. He has heard some arguments that have shaken him pretty badly, so he endeavors to learn more, or to at least be open to listening to arguments against Mani and entertain Christianity's claims against Mani. A certain man has argued for the validity of the scriptures in such a way that Augustine goes to his Manichaean superiors in order to hear their arguments against the argument. Now, listen to what Augustine has to say about how these Manichaeans respond. This is the way the meeting went. It's quite enlightening. Augustine writes, quote, "The Manichae response, which they would not put about openly, but communicated to us in secret, seemed to me a feeble one," unquote. Any religion, whether it's the Masons, the Mormons, or the Manichaeans, any religion that withholds information from you until you have been initiated, or a religion that cloisters itself in its apologetics behind the safety of its own dark sanctuaries so that they do not have to answer publicly, those are satanic. And at the end of the day, they know that if they revealed their final initiation secrets to the public, they'd be laughed out of town. And don't give me no bull about you got to be trained in 30 initiatory levels in order to understand the 31st. I think we all can hear what Zeno's about, and we get a pretty good idea of where the straitjackets are. Jesus came for anyone with proverbial eyes and ears. Christianity is or should be transparent. If the Vatican keeps secrets, then the Vatican is wrong. If the Baptist down the street keeps secrets, then that particular Baptist church is wrong. If the organization that you belong to is a secret organization, then you are a stooge of the devil, no matter how vehemently you cry out that your secret club is not evil, but super benevolent. God deals in light. It's who he is. He is the Father of light. God deals in light. The devil deals in darkness and secrets. God deals in screaming out the truth. The devil whispers lies in the dark. You could be like God. My current church will not allow anyone who is a member of a secret society to join our society. And I would suggest that all churches take up this wise practice. Why? Simple. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much they swear up and down to you that they're good and that their organization is benevolent, you have no idea what they are up to. And at the end of the day, their allegiance to their little secret club is more important to them than their membership to the local community of Jesus Christ. Period. I've asked 1 million of them. Take the ring off. Join us. Which is more important to you? Just think how upset you would be to find out after $500,000 of auditing and clearing fees that you, at the end of it all, worship an alien named Xenu. Think how horrified you would be if you raised your family in a church, made all your friends in that church, and then years down the line you were handed a book called The Pearl of Great Price that informed you that you had been taken for a ride. What do you do at that point? Do you confess before the entire family that you were wrong? Make enemies of all the other cult members who will work tirelessly to bring you back into the fold? Some of your family are now enculturated, and they're enculturated forever because of you. And even they fight to bring you back to the farm. If your religion is not a religion of full disclosure, then that religion has something to hide. And things that have something to hide gather in the darkness. I'll admit they do have appeal. I'm very drawn to secret societies. They are like our current sorry university system, which mass-produced brainwashed lemmings to feed to the Moloch machine of Metropolis. You feel good getting the dopamine hit each level through the initiatory process that you go through. Each time you get cleared, each time you get a new hat, each time you get a new robe, each time you get a new title and a little more bling, each time you get more and more and more, you get more people under you who respect you for going up that ladder. They failed to achieve that greatness, so you're an icon to them, just like a World of Warcraft addict. You get caught up in the treadmill and never once realize that it's just an illusion and you're going nowhere. And your whole life is falling apart while you have risen the ranks of ignorance and sold your energies to the demon of glamour. The next interesting thing about this particular section is Augustine's small mention of what he calls perfect hatred. I had to sit and think about that long and hard to write this lesson. Our culture has almost convinced all Christians to accept anything at all, no matter how horrible, no matter how sinful, no matter how much of an abomination, simply by telling them that they shouldn't hate or judge. Don't judge. Even if the Bible clearly judges it, you're told to leave brain at home. But what does the Bible really say about hate? Does it say anything about hate? Are we to hate some things? Can there be a perfect hate just as there is a perfect love? And I'm not talking about the perfection of darkness as compared to the perfection of light. I'm talking about the perfection of cake as compared to the perfection of custard. I want to instantly think of hate as evil. I do. When I hear hate, I want to think of it as evil, but that's just not true. Is there any good hate? At my previous church, there were those that were convinced that there wasn't even a thing as good anger. I disagree with them vehemently. It makes me angry what they believe. There is perfect hate, and there is good anger. You're not to let your anger make you sin, and you are to hate the right things in the right order, to love properly. When talking about perfect hate, Augustine references Psalm 139, which within the context of verses 19 to 22 says this: God, if only you would kill the wicked. You bloodthirsty men, stay away from me. Who invoke you deceitfully? Your enemies swear by you falsely, Lord. Don't I hate those who hate you and detest those who rebel against you? I hate them with extreme hatred. I consider them my enemies. Unquote. Now, you might retaliate with Jesus's teachings about love surpasses this and supersedes this, but I am very tired of working with Christians who throw part of the Bible out just because they don't like it and then blame Jesus for throwing out Jesus's Bible. Jesus hated some things. He didn't hate people, and we shouldn't either. But we do have to get back into the business of hating things, hating practices, hating governmental policies, hating injustice, hating cults, hating sinful actions, and everything else that is an enemy to God. For if it is an enemy to God, at the end of the day, it is your enemy as well. Even if you make friends with it, it will turn on you and stab you in the back. I am both giggling and I'm crying about all the people being attracted to the Satanic Church in the last few years. I've heard they're growing profusely. I cry because God help them, but I giggle too because they're going to learn the hard way, as every Faustian bargain teaches it's the person who shakes hands with the devil. I giggle because these fools don't have enough sense to realize to whom they swear allegiance. Have they read one decent story? Have they watched one single movie? Have they even seen a after-school broadcast, a public service announcement? You don't need the Bible to be wise about this issue. It helps, but common sense ought to get you there. You don't need the Bible to be wise enough to know that the devil will shake hands with you, but only long enough to chop your fingers off at the knuckles and laugh as you bleed out on the floor. You get to play guitar well, but the bill does come due eventually with the devil. Beware what you do at the crossroads. I laugh, but the laugh is filled with tears for them when they realize who it is they are saluting. As Kanye learned the hard way, you just don't walk out there and blurt out you love Hitler. But here's the horrific truth. You must love him with perfect love, but you must also hate him with perfect hatred. To love him is to wish the Lord's best for him. To hate him is to hate his actions, not his soul. Like a child who is caught up in some addiction, you hate them addicted, but you love them to freedom. If you do not love, then do not attempt to perfectly hate. Say that again. If you do not love, turn this off right now. It is not for you. If you do not love, then do not attempt to perfectly hate. You will fail. You'll just end up hating, and you'll give the opinion that the media would love to give people about Christianity. But if you actually do love, if you can practice love, if you've received much love and can give much love, then perfect hate is not just an option for you. It is a necessity to your Christian life. For to love something is to hate all other things which might destroy or corrupt the object of love. I hate certain perversions, but I love the people being destroyed by the perversions. I love the children that are having their bodies destroyed by ignorant parents and greedy doctors. I even love the parents and the doctors. But at the end of the day, I hate their willingness to chop our babies up, and I hate their willingness to kill children in the womb. And I will lovingly do all that I can within the law to let these parents and these doctors know that I hate their actions and I will not tolerate their actions any longer. I hate what they do with a perfect hatred, for I hate what they do because I love them and I love their victims. Sometimes, as Bonhoeffer learned, love might require that you take part in an assassination plot to take out Hitler at some point in your life. Kanye might love Hitler, and I might love him with the love of Christ, but if he will not stop killing people, then perfect love must become victorious in the exercise of perfect hate. Jesus says to love my neighbor and my enemy. How can I love anything for which I do not hate what is killing it? How do I love my neighbor if I will not lift my finger to save them from a murderous tyrant? There is no such thing as a Christian pacifist. That's mutually exclusive. Christ was not a pacifist. Peter was not a pacifist. Paul was not. I am not. Attack that which I love, and you will find me down on my knees seeking the path of perfect hatred, as defined by the God of perfect love. Chapter 5.12.22 near the end explains it like this, quote, they love the fleeting pleasures of the moment, the sordid getting of money, which soils the hand that holds it. They embrace this passing world and despise you, the abiding one, who call the human soul back to you and forgive it when it returns from its harlotry. To this day, I hate such warped and twisted people, but now I will love them in the hope of straightening them out so that they put education before money and put you before that, O God, who are the truth and wealth and goodness, of goodness unfailing, whose contract is most inviolate. Unquote. Remember the old saying, hate the sinner, love the sinner? Well, it is true, even if it's cliched. The left and the demon rats have done a great job of convincing the world that disagreement is hate. It is not. Time for Christians to begin hating sin with a passion. For sin destroys all those people you pretend to love with your worthless inaction. Little Jimmy thinks he's a girl. Well, let's just chop him up and fix it. To that I say, if little Jimmy thought he could fly, would it be all right if I threw him off a cliff so he can identify as a bird? I hate insanity. I love the insane. Therefore, I do all that I can to free them from bedlam, just as I try to save a child at the library by calling out the pervert who is grooming them with a book reading. They just marched the streets again. You know that, right? They just marched the streets again yelling, "We're coming for your children." Let me be really clear so you don't miss anything in the roar of your little shame parade. Let me instruct you in the ways of perfect love and perfect hate. I love those kids. And if you come after my kids and my grandkids, then you better get ready because I'll be coming after you. Do we understand each other? If you think Jesus would be okay with all of us handing our kids over to cross-dressers and perverts, then you have another thing coming. If you think Jesus wasn't happy with Bonhoeffer's attempt to blow Hitler to hell and back, then you and I are of a different religion. And it will all be known in the end. I'll stand before God and answer just as you will. Seek it out in fear and trembling. I have. What I have learned from Jesus Christ is this. When it's against me, I need to turn the other cheek. And I need to turn the other cheek as many times as I can muster. But when it comes to my loved ones being destroyed, then I better turn the tables, weave the whips, and lovingly drive out cancer with a perfect hatred. If you don't remove the gangrene, then you do not love the limb. If you can't show perfect hatred, then honestly, you probably don't know perfect love. Someone was telling me a story recently about their child having to get an EpiPen, and the doctor was telling this person that they wouldn't believe some of the ridiculousness that young people come in today with. One young person's child needed an EpiPen, and that person said that they just couldn't hurt their child by putting a needle in them. Any comment needed? Don't use the scriptures to be an idiot, and don't use the scriptures to be a coward. I've watched so many people use the scriptures to be a coward. I've become convinced over the last 4 years that God really dislikes cowards. Turn to Confessions, Book 5, chapters 11-13, and next week we will be wrapping up Book 5 completely and moving on to Book 6. So we'll be looking forward to that. And Book 5, chapter 11. Moreover, I thought indefensible those points of your scriptures that the Manichees had criticized. But I still long from time to time to discuss each question with some scholar versed in those scriptures, and to discover what he thought. Even at Carthage, I had been moved by words of a certain Elpidius, who had publicly conducted anti-Manichee debates and lectures. He had produced arguments in favor of the scriptures that could not easily be countered. The Manichee response, which they would not put out openly, but communicated to us in secret, seemed to me a feeble one. The New Testament writings, they said, had been tampered with by certain individuals who wished to graft the Jewish law onto the Christian faith, but they could produce no copies of the unadulterated text. But my mind was set on things corporeal. I was utterly deceived by their masses, which were, so to speak, dragging me down and drowning me. I gasped for breath beneath them and could not breathe in the pure and simple air of your truth. So it was, I set hard at work about the business for which I had come to Rome, namely to teach rhetoric. But first I gathered to my home a circle of men among whom and through whom my reputation had begun to spread. Then I learned that some things went on at Rome that I had not had to endure at Carthage. My friends confirmed that there were no young hooligans who indulged in wrecking activities as there were at Carthage, but they told me a whole group of students will contrive to avoid paying one teacher by transferring to another. They will renege on their contract and count honest dealing as nothing compared to their love of money. My heart hated these students too, though not with a perfect hatred. For I hated them more perhaps because I was going to suffer their actions than because they would act in the same dishonest fashion towards anyone. Nonetheless, such people are indeed repellent. They are unfaithful to you. They love the fleeting pleasures of the moment, the sordid getting of money which soils the hand that holds it. They embrace this passing world and despise you, abiding one, who call the human soul back to you and forgive it when it returns from its harlotry. To this day, I hate such warped and twisted people, but now I will love them in the hope of straightening them out, so that they put education before money and put you before that. O God, who are the truth and wealth of goodness unfailing, whose contract is most inviolate. But in those days, I was more reluctant for my own sake to endure such wicked men than desirous for your sake that they should become good. It was then that word came from Milan to the city perfect at Rome, ordering that a professor of rhetoric should be provided for that city whose removal expenses were to be paid by the state. I began to canvass for the post, using as my agents none other than the Manichees, drunk as they were on their own vanities. Neither of us knew at the time that it was so as to be rid of them that I would leave Rome. I made a speech on a set theme, the city perfect of the day. Symmachus approved of my speech and dispatched me to Milan. On arrival, I went to Ambrose, the bishop, known throughout the world as one of the great, a pious worshiper of yours, who by the eloquence he then possessed, administered to the populace the finest wheat, the oil of rejoicing, and the wine that makes men merry and sober. It was by you that I was brought to him without my knowing, so that through him I might be brought knowing to you. He, a man of God, welcomed me as a father and showed me the love a bishop should show to one far from home. I too came to love him, not as a teacher of the truth, which I despaired of finding in your church, but as a man who was kind to me. I listened keenly to his public debates. If not for the right reasons, my purpose was to test out his rhetorical skills and see if they lived up to their reputation or were more or less fluent than report made them. I had no curiosity about the subject of his speech, and in that respect was a contemptuous bystander, enjoying the pleasant flow of his language, which, though more learned, was less stirring and less seductive than Faustus's had been, so far as the manner of his speech was concerned. But in the subject matter itself, there was no comparison. Faustus, misled by the Manichees, was far astray. Ambrose taught the health-giving doctrine of salvation. But salvation is far from sinners, such as I then was. Yet gradually and unknowingly, I was growing nearer to it. Now, before we finish up, I do want to say that love must precede perfect hate. It must come first. If it does not come first, then you're going at it from the wrong end and it will not work for you. Don't focus on the wrongs. Focus on the person. Learn to love that person dearly, no matter what their sin is. Learn to care for them because they are twisted and broken. And when you do this, you will see clearly the twisting and violent snake that is the real enemy. And when you spot that snake, then allow the very wrath of God to empower you with a perfect hatred as can only come from perfect love. Hate the devil. Love those who reside in his prisons. Christ is King. Hate to the King.